let's face it, right? We want people who will arrive, pay, and stay. And we got to put pay in there. And I came up with that after the realization, because by the way, anything I share with you, I did opposite. I always like to set the context. I mean, literally, this is a huge part of my journey. I'll never forget the day I went, we're not giving anybody their information until they arrive. And it was a disaster. It really was. And for about 3 months, and it was brutal. And it killed my team more than it killed the other side. And I didn't realize the impact on my team until we stopped it. And people came up and said, thanks for changing that. And I was like, oh, geez, this was a lot worse than I thought. It really was. So my goal on every new patient call, right, is I want to get through 5 steps with them. And this part, the first four are not as important, but I want to tell you in the order we want to go. And it doesn't matter your payer source. It doesn't matter if you're in network, out of network, cash pay, any of it. I want to talk about them, acknowledge them. I want to talk about their problem to be solved. I want to talk about their expectations. I want to make sure they know they're aligned with an expert by name. I want to make sure they know what they're going to get from their expert on that first visit and what that means to their journey. And then I'm literally, the last thing will ask them, and again, regardless of payer source, I say, how do you want to pay? That is the process I want on every phone call. Now, we all know people lead with, do you take my insurance? I get it all, but that's the process I want. And we must check all 5 of those. I think there are 5 boxes there. I'm 6, sorry. We must check all 6 of those boxes to be successful. And the reason we want to do that, we need to decrease fear, we need to decrease doubt, and we need to decrease uncertainty. And there will be fear, doubt, and uncertainty with every individual one of those steps, including payment. So my goal with that is that has to be the start. And even the in-network clinics, I love it, because if someone like Corey calls me and we've gone through this good conversation and she feels good about where she calls, and I've been trying to sell how I'm different. And then I say, so Corey, and we're in network, and I say, so Corey, how was it you wanted to pay for your, for your visit here with Dr. Jane Doe? You always get that dead air 130% of the time. How do you want to pay for that, Corey? You take my insurance, don't you? Oh yeah, absolutely. Do you have your insurance card? So, right, that's the way we want this to flow. And here's the other big kicker I want to bring to you guys. I love working with front desk team members who say all patients care about is their insurance. And I say, okay. And then I secret call them and they bring up insurance before I do. So I was like, is it patients care about it more, or do you use it because you bring it up first more? So these are just some things I want you to think about this process. And then, yeah, doing what we need to do to then deliver, because what I like to do at the end of a first call is promise them the next interaction that will give them the payment. I'm using that word very broadly. I want to make sure they know when they hang up when that next interaction is coming regarding their payment. And I work with clients all the time. Some clients it's same day, some clients it's 2 days before. Some still give it at arrival, which I'm not a fan of, and I try to talk people out of it. But again, if Corey knows that she's going to get a call from us, okay, Corey, I got you on Thursday at 9 o'clock. That means I'm going to call you Tuesday. And by the way, this isn't a question. I'm going to call you Tuesday between 10 and noon with your cost or benefits, whatever you want to say. Now, Corey has checked every box in this process that, yes, I've called the right place. I know I'm seeing an expert. All these boxes are checked with that big fat payment box too, right? And it's got to be arrive and pay. God bless PTs, right? We want to give it all away until we want a paycheck. So that's all the mindset around everything we're going to talk about today. And you can throw the questions out, Thomas. Let's go. And yeah, I'm happy to hear how other people are doing it.
Yeah, anyone feel free to chime in. I think the one question that we did have, Jerry, was how do you deal with the policies around that? Are you really upfront around like, hey, if you're not, if X, Y, and Z happens, here's the result of that, just to nip it in the butt beforehand? Because obviously laying that expectation that, hey, if you're not going to pay, we can't keep seeing you for this reason.
We have this obligation, and I'd call it, I don't use this term very much, but I think we have an ethical obligation to have this conversation with people. Yet understanding it's not our insurance. It's not my insurance. It's your insurance. Understanding that when the insurance company, when you go through the portal or you call them, start the conversation with what? Anybody want to tell me how every single benefit check call starts? Besides their name? This call is no guarantee of benefits. So why are you, the owners, taking ownership of this information? So back to your point, Thomas, this was a huge step in my journey. So I did this, right? If you guys don't know me, I answered all the incoming new patient calls in my business for a year when we went out in network in the early 2000s before it was cool. And I realized we had to give people their costs before they arrived. We were going to fail immensely because I tried it all the other ways and we were failing. That's how I figured it out. So what I worked out was a cost callback, and we had a process for the cost callback, and it was the only thing we did that was scripted. Everything else had a flow sheet, had a process sheet. Cost callback was scripted, and to Thomas's question, it read exactly like the financial policy you were going to sit down and sign when you arrive. And boy, I put it all out there. We put a section, I've never seen this anywhere else, and I offer it, and I have it. If anybody on this call wants it, we put a section, I kicked it up a font, I bolded it on our financial policy, one page, and it said at the top, we got this information from your insurance company. They will not guarantee this information, period. That means if any of this insurance information is wrong, it is their fault, period. If you have any problems with your insurance company and payment or billing, we are more than happy to help you. It was right at the top. You had to initial and sign that separately from the bottom. And that was discussed on the cost callback. Now, mind you, because of all this in this process, we didn't have a lot of people. So, right, what problem are you trying to solve here? I didn't want big bills at the end. I didn't want people with, we had a big message in our back office where our billing, where our insurance team, billing team, and it said no surprises. Right? I didn't want people getting a big bill. I didn't want people having a balance. I didn't want any of these things. So I put together a process to prevent that, not manage it. Everybody else is trying to manage that shit. I'm like, no, this is a losing game.
Before we go on to the next one, or my next question, Jerry, Lisa, Katie, Jesse, anybody have, Victoria, anybody have any questions about their specific clinic or a specific scenario, especially if you've got something very niche to your setting? Feel free to ask it.
I do. So with our company, so we need to start getting credit cards for every single patient, whether their insurance, will pay for it, but we do have cancellation fees. How do we approach patients? Because I find a lot, especially with elderly people, it's always an issue because they're always worried about scams. There's always, that concern in their mind, but a lot of people just don't want to give a credit card. So we don't want to say, oh, we're not going to see you if you don't give us this credit card. But what's a good way to go about getting that information without ruffling any feathers and keeping that person as our patient?
Is anybody doing that currently? You want to answer that? So you're not Cynthia, by the way, are you?
She's Lisa.
No. My name is Lisa. I'm Cindy's clinic coordinator.
No, it's all good. I just want to make sure I know your name. Sorry. That's why I said you're not Cynthia. Sorry, Lisa. So here's what I found. If people, right? Why? Let's go back to the beginning. We want to decrease fear, doubt, and uncertainty. Yeah. So every step of this journey, what I challenge you to do, Lisa, and anybody else, because I agree. Yet I will tell you all this, people are more used to giving their credit card info up front than they've ever been before, right? I've been in this business for 30 plus years. Other people have been in here long. There are certain things that if we look at the cultural norms, the national norms, people are more ready to do it. So then I say it's on us, Lisa, to create an environment where they feel safe doing it. So how can we structure, because I used to be totally against this probably 2 or 3 years ago. Now I'm telling all my clients, no, let's work it in. Let's just collect them on the front end. And we have pretty good success with this because if we're thinking about the fear, doubt, and uncertainty, and I baked in things like, so Lisa, here's what check this out. This is how I go into it. I swear this is one of the kickers. This is what works best for what's the name of your clinic, Lisa?
Mobile Therapy Group.
Yeah. Hey, Jerry. So here's what I want to share with you next is what works best for our most successful clients here at Mobile Therapy Group. And I'm going to tell you that right there, just right, starts to get them in this mindset of, well, I want to be a successful client. Now, mind you, I'm not going to then just go hard at it. And I'm going to tell them why we collect the card. It specifically, here's the other kicker I think is important, is when I collect credit cards and put together the processes for this, I do things like say, and by the way, Lisa, your card will never be charged until the end of your treatment. Things like that, right? So if I build in all these reasons to have the fear, doubt, and uncertainty, and I've had this conversation around why you should choose us, and I've walked you through all this, and then I'm telling you this, I'm going to guarantee you the adherence rate or the compliance rate with that will go up. But if we go, by the way, we take a credit card, keep it on file to charge, no, right? It's not going to be there. So tell them, say exactly when you're going to charge it, why you would charge it, and then go into again, hey, we're going to keep a credit card on file to charge you for your visits. I'm like, hey, it's still not good enough, man, right? It's got to be, hey, Lisa, we keep a credit card on file because we want to save you the time and energy on your visits. We don't want to be chasing you down. By the way, Lisa, we also don't want you to get stuck with a surprise bill. So here we go, right? Now we're doing, oh my God, Lisa, we're just doing this all for you. Right. And so then, and pile this stuff up. And I mean, script this out. It's got to be like this. We're talking money. I mean, we're talking health. We're talking money. I'm like, I don't know. Throw religion and politics in, and maybe those get rolled in. Those are about the four worst, right? Fear,
Right.
doubt, and uncertainty, right? That just bring up this tension. You're going to take my credit card. You're going to keep it, but you're going to keep it on file to charge me when? What? And by the way, you might even say, we'll let you know the amount on the way out. I mean, you guys could tweak it however you want. Does that make sense, Lisa?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I just chiming in here real quick. I would just say that, I fully admit I've never been a practice owner and Lord knows what I'm doing here at Strata anyway. But the point is, though, is that, what's interesting is that, and I'm going to say this assertively, but, Jerry, everybody else, feel free to treat me like a second grader and laugh me out of here. I could not agree more with what Jerry said in terms of like societal norms have improved over the last couple of years. Like now, to your point, there's still people out there that are like, is this a scam or not? And I think there's two ways to think about this. The first is, as we think about our own product roadmap, the thing we think a lot about is okay, as that patient checks in via their mobile device, how do we kind of do things right there on the page to kind of capture Apple Pay or whatever, like those are things that are kind of on our roadmap to kind of help make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
However, what you're describing there is probably more of a more difficult challenge of like trust. Why these people don't trust the credit card. It's like, I bet you these are the same people that understand that when they walk into a Starbucks, they're not walking out of there without paying for the coffee. But yet they're somehow okay with the fact that they're not going to pay the doctor. And this is probably not going to be a helpful comment. It's really more of a just maybe a validation of like maybe the core problem here is that there's so much we can do at the product side that's on our roadmap to kind of help. But the part that our software that we can't do, but I think that's where guys like Jerry and their thinking in this really helps is like, how do we sort of empower that front desk or that first line of communication with the patient to set the stage that really subtly that we're no different than any other Starbucks. Like you can't walk out of your local Harris Teeter with a gallon of milk without paying for it. You can't do it here either. So I know I'm not adding solutions here. I'm just validating that I think it's a difficult problem that's more industry level, like where it's like, how do we convince more practice owners, front desk managers, things like that they're owed this money, and it's not a, what's the word? It's not. I think Jerry said something else. I think is very. Yeah, it's like Jerry said something else that I think is very valid, where it's like the financial responsibility is the patient's,
Yes.
not the providers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, Kylie, you have your hand raised, but I want to tag on to it goes with what Jerry and Paul were just saying. Another thing to keep in mind, particularly with the elderly population, and there's some part of it is just that mindset, but also consider how many other medical bills they have gotten that were wrong, that the hospital didn't get their bill out to them for 6 to 8 months, and then all of a sudden they would get hit with a card. It is a symptom of the healthcare system that makes them not trust, that makes them assume you're not going to have your act together and charge them the right amount. That's a big problem that I've seen.
100%. Prior expectations, right? This is something else I want to throw in about this conversation. Thank you, Amy. Amy, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, right. I tell people all the time when someone says, no, I've never had physical therapy, we talk to them like they've never experienced healthcare. I'm like, oh, no. No, they're bringing all their baggage, good and bad, to this conversation. So, and again, Lisa, I think that's an opportunity for some of these people. I told you guys, no surprises. And part of it, if you guys, what I said was, by the way, you will not get a surprise bill from us. I'm going to guarantee you the public knows that frickin' phrase at this point.
They do.
They know the phrase surprise bill. And you think of all the stuff in healthcare, all the stuff they don't know. You say surprise bill, and I bet most people, 8 out of 10 people, can define what that means. Oh yeah, I get that bill I didn't expect from my healthcare provider. And I'd go, absolutely, or system. I go, that's it. You won't get one of those from us. And that's why we set, I'm pointing at Lisa. Sorry, I don't know who's above me. Lisa's above me right there. That's why I keep pointing that way. But that's what we set up. You won't get one of those, Lisa. And then, right, we address Amy's over here, sorry. And then we address what Amy's saying, that prior expectation. That's really what we're doing because I want this to happen on the first phone call, right? And that's what we're doing there. And that's what I do with everybody. And they talk to people and I'm like, they've had an expectation before. You either manage it or you set it. There is no in between.
Yeah. Kylie, go ahead.
Well, yeah. Again, Lisa, when you're talking about the elderly population, as someone who's had to have numerous conversations with the elderly, I mean, I have sold hospice. I've been a PTA, so I talk to them all the time. Whoever is having these personal conversations needs to have the emotional intelligence to calmly explain this, because you're going to get a ton of pushback. You might have a cute old lady and you just explain it, but you might have a grumpy old veteran that you have to kind of diffuse the situation before explaining all of this, and you have to use it in terms that they understand, unfortunately. So whoever is in charge of this needs to practice role play tons of times. You can't just give it to some 18-year-old with a phone, because they're not going to be able to explain this.
Right.
And so once you connect with the elderly and you kind of diffuse, and it might even take a time or two. Sometimes I think I've had to talk to them 2 or 3 times. And when I'm meeting them before, like answering their objections beforehand, they're like, oh, she knows what she's talking about. So whoever this is, I mean, they have a hard thing to do, but they can do it.
Right.
Absolutely. I want to pile onto that real quick, because I remember in my journey early on, Kylie, correct? Kylie? Yeah. In my journey early on, when I would start asking more questions on the front end, I got the grumpy old dude, right? And I got him more than once. And first I took it personally. And then I realized over time, he has been in a system who never kept him on the phone more than like 3 minutes. And I was like, oh shit, this is on me. Right. And this was like 15 years ago. And I still remember those original conversations, Kylie. And I went, oh, so why don't I just do a little better job of setting expectations here and tell them why I'm asking this? And it actually flipped the way I was using the script for everybody. So that's great input there, Kylie, is we have to understand that, right? Who are these people we're working for? I do want to say this, and I made this note back to what Kylie's saying. If someone doesn't get it, you know what I say to them? Cool. Can you just make sure you pay at the end of each visit and we're done? Because if I get 80% of the people on credit cards, right, nothing's 100% here. So if someone's going to say, no, absolutely not, I'm going to say, great, Kylie, that's fine. Just do me a favor. Know that we take payment at the end of each visit, and we'll expect the full payment. And by the way, I'll have that dollar amount for it too, right? So again, no harm, no foul here.
Yeah, and you guys, I'm Corey, and I'm an OT by background, and director of growth here at Strata, for those of you who don't know. But knowledge is power, and I feel like that's what we keep talking about. I talk to a lot of clinic owners who are potentially going to be joining Strata. And a lot of them don't do insurance verifications. They will say, oh, I don't even check the secondary. It takes too much time, you know, or I just check online. I know it's not good, accurate information. But I feel like that's a responsibility. That knowledge is power. That shows your competence right there from the get-go. We've all been to doctors, and when you go there, and I'm going to a dermatologist, and they're going to look up the procedures I had that day and give me an estimated cost. So as a clinician, as a therapy owner, I feel like we need to take on that responsibility and offer that transparency to our patients.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a value add in your business. It's a value add. It's not value. It's a value add because I keep telling my clients, nobody else is doing this. Step 1, answer the phone. Step 2, acknowledge what they say. Step 3, tell them why the hell you're asking them questions. Step 4, right? Make it all about them. I mean, we can't lose in this, right? And exactly right. It is a value add.
Yeah.
By the way, I have a business who does this. I'm not pitching it. I didn't want to start it. So many people asked me for this. I started it and we set it up in this manner. When people tell me I just want the benefits, I'm like, well, what are you going to do with them after we get them to you? Because I'm like, I'm just not in this to deliver data to people. I'm in this to understand that I'm helping you with your process to serve more people, right? In the way Corey said, right? So yeah, really, really big point there. Thanks.
Lisa, is there any more specific situations, you know, with your guys' clinic that you would want to chat through or even just ask?
I don't, not that I can think of right now, but I might think of something down the line.
All good. Well,
I have a question for Lisa, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
Hey, Lisa, you guys do a lot of products, and do you not do products and like you have the OT side of it, the hand side of it?
We do. We have the certified hand therapy. We have 2 clinics.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
We do sell a lot of products out of the clinic.
Okay, out of the clinic.
Yeah, it's mostly out of the clinic, but we do have our mobile therapists that will sell, you know, some things, but
Okay.
I think the majority of it is sold out of the clinic.
Okay. I was just curious, right? With all of it coming in, of people going, well, will my insurance pay for this, right? Because I assume that's a common answer people get, right?
Yeah. So all of our which we call our point of sale products,
Sure.
those don't go through insurance. Those are all cash based products. The big insurance that we have, which I do all the insurance checks, so I'm thoroughly checking primary, secondary, I mean, anything and everything to make sure that we're 100% like on top of it. But a lot of it is splints. We do hand splints. We make custom hand splints.
That's what else I was thinking of too, right?
So that's another insurance check. That's another product, but that can go through insurance depending. Now, if you have Medicare, you know, there's all the guidelines. So if you've had a similar splint made in the last 5 years, Medicare is not going to cover it. And that's usually a big topic for patients, but they understand, they know, because they've gone through the process already. So that's not an issue for us. I don't see it as an issue.
But you know what I heard across all that? So once it's recommended, then you guys are telling them, let us check your insurance and see what they'll cover on these, even during their course of care, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we encourage patients who aren't even our patients to call in and say, we have it on our website. Call us. We'll check your insurance. We'll call
that's
your
great.
insurance
Yeah,
and see.
Back to Corey's statement, right? Yeah.
And, you know, we're only in network with Medicare Part B. So any other insurance is out of network. But one thing that we really say is, you know, let me check your insurance, because most insurances do have out of network benefits. And then we have a ton of patients that, you know, are out of network that are going through their insurance right now. So it's just, you know, and I think people really appreciate that when we do that, but
there's no question about it. It's not, I think it's people appreciate that.
Yeah.
Corey said it best. We've got to understand that this has to be done. It has to be done. Yeah. And then we're part of the problem if we don't, right? This and that. We're part of the problem if we don't, by the way.
I will say that what absolutely is, I know that I've done this, and I'll be honest, is I get so into the routine of things that when someone calls, my first thought is insurance. So I'll be honest, I have done that, and I say, okay, great. Well, what type of insurance do you have? I don't. And this is something that Cindy and I have discussed, that we've actually made changes in the last like month, trying to not do that. Say, okay, well, oh, good morning, how are you? What's going on? Like, basically, what are you calling us for? And that has actually made a lot of improvements.
Awesome.
But
Oh,
it's getting
an
out of
angel
the
just got
habit
its wings,
hard.
Lisa. A little angel just got its wings.
I know.
That's awesome.
So we've actually gotten better there, but it's definitely the credit cards for people who don't have insurance, that we're just really going to have to go the extra mile for, and really, like Kylie said, just make sure you can communicate with them on a one-on-one, like understand what they're saying, and I'm trying to come up with the word for it, but I can't right now.
Well,
Like
it's a process. There needs to be a process established. So
Yeah.
I challenge you on this. There must be, and this is what freaks me out about people. We don't have a process. I'm like, why? Because it doesn't apply to everybody. I'm like, but a process is made to be applied 100% of the time, and with an understanding that there's going to be outliers.
Right.
So, right, where does this cost conversation fit? Back to Kylie's input. Who am I speaking with? And by the way, I said I have one script, and it was for a cost callback, because everybody on the other end of the phone deserves a conversation, and the person taking the call deserves the opportunity to have a conversation and know where to take it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Right. Yes. So think about where this fits, right? With something like this, for anybody, the insurance stuff, where does this fit in our process? By the way, I've worked with people where they absolutely, back to your point, Lisa, they want to talk this way, but there were absolutely like 2 insurances they had to know about before they even went to schedule. So we took their whole process. I looked at it and I went, cool, we're going to insert that question right here because it's going to fit, and we're going to make it flow with the conversation and the process. And if someone says yes to this, we know immediately where to go. And when they say no, it just goes to the same flow. So again, where does this fit in the conversation? Because there may be some people calling you guys, Lisa, where you're like, no, absolutely. Like some people work with motor vehicle accidents. But most of the time when I do a secret caller, it's like, hi, my name's Jerry. I'm calling about physical therapy. I have some low back pain. Oh, were you in a car accident? I'm like, that's not the way to ask. Right? It's got to.
Yeah.
That's my challenge to everybody.
Hey, I would like to piggyback on the processing that Jerry was just talking about. Lisa, if you're comfortable sharing, since you guys are a mobile practice, I deal with a lot of practice. Mobile PT and OT speech in the home is becoming very popular for Part B. How are you managing? Because some people share with me, I was wondering, how do you manage collecting that patient responsibility for those mobile visits?
So I run payments every Friday. So when another thing, when I'm talking to patients at the end of the call, when I have their card, I let them know that I charge, your payment every Friday of every week for the visits of that week. And that's kind of how we go about it. For Medicare patients, obviously we want it to go through insurance first. If they don't have a secondary, because we don't know what their payment's going to be until it processes, which no one has a problem with. I always ask a patient, do you want me to contact you before I charge your card? Because, those elderly people are on fixed incomes. So let's say 5 charges come through and it's $150. Some people can't afford that. So we always make sure that we call, and, if they say yes, some people say, no, just go ahead and charge it. But that's kind of how that's how we do payments for everybody. But everything is I run all payments every Friday.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, because a lot of the clinic owners will say, well, I don't want my therapist to have to deal with anything with collecting money at these mobile visits and that type of thing. And that's one of the best practices that I've heard many mobile practices use. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jesse or Katie or Victoria, do you guys have any specific questions for your clinics you guys want to chat through? Otherwise, we'll keep moving here.
I don't necessarily have any questions. Our process is a little different, and I don't know if it's better or worse in that we do keep credit cards on file, but we give the people the option to use card on file or just to pay at the window when they come in. And the form that they sign that authorizes us to charge the card on file says that we will automatically charge it when any account gets into past due status. And so when we take that credit card, we're explaining to them before you get to past due status, we're going to tell you at the window that you owe us. You're going to get a text message that you owe us. You're going to get 2 invoices in the mail that you owe us. If at that time you haven't paid, that's when we would automatically charge this card on file. And our clinic is, we have maybe 100 visits a week where my husband and I are the owners. This is very much a small family practice. And we started collecting cards on file for those people who were coming and they were getting their visits and then they would disappear and never pay their bill. And so the other thing that we started doing, especially with some of these people who were a little bit more hesitant, was to say, I'm sure you're going to pay your bill, but to protect us as a small family practice, we've had this experience in the past. So we just made it a policy to do this for everyone.
Yeah.
I know you're going to pay your bill, but this protects us.
Yeah, pulling we're a small business, not even pulling it, saying we're a small business, we're family owned, like this is really important to us, is I think something that a lot of, even if you're a bigger clinic, this is still really important to our business, and anyone who's got the wherewithal and just the understanding that small businesses, cash flow matters, all that kind of stuff matters, that 100% helps. Jerry.
I think just again, I admit, I probably shouldn't even be on this call. I'm not qualified, but what you just mentioned there, Katie, I think is like it outlines something that's subtle, but I don't think we as an industry talk enough about. It's the soft skills, like it's those specific phrases that you use that are so important. I'm just reminded really randomly of a story that my nephew is 18 years old now, and he's got like one of his first, jobs as you do when you're trying to make money to go to college. And so he's like selling cars at CarMax. And so I happened to ask him the other day, like, hey, so how's that training going? Like the guy's never been in a sales job, and so I said, so how's that training going? And he was like, yeah, Uncle Paul, it's a little strange. I expected to sit in the classroom, but the first day they just told me to go in the bathroom and not come out of there until I could like look myself in the mirror and say, this is how much this car costs without flinching. And so anyway, that's the point of this, is that it's those soft skills that I think that we don't talk enough about as an industry. Like software can only go so far, but to that earlier discussion, about like people thinking that these are scams and stuff, so much of it really is about like the training that we provide to the people that are actually conveying the message. So for whatever that's worth.
I think that's a good segue to talking cost, right? Because I have run into so many front desk teams, and this comes from the top down. So I've never in my life met a bad front desk team. I've met people who weren't trained properly or weren't hired properly, is what I've met, who are afraid to talk costs. And I'm like, where the hell do you think your paycheck comes from? And has no one tied your work back into your paycheck? So something to think about for all of us. By the way, I was guilty of this. So again, I did it. And the day I told my front desk team how much a course of care was worth to the business, I literally saw the work change the day after. And all I told them was, you know how much that call was? And I was asking them genuinely, do you know how much that call was worth? He said, yeah, we charge $150 a visit. I'm like, no, that's the first visit. That's what leads into a course of care. I'm like, that's worth $2,000. And I got a lot of blank stares and a lot of dead air, but I got to tell you, right, their commitment to get this stuff done changed. So just something to think about, because I think there's a really good segue, because a lot of people don't want to talk cost on the phone. The business owner will talk cost all day long.
Yeah.
But, right. We hire people and drop them in a seat and go, call these people back and tell them it's going to be $200 for this visit. Oh, weird. They failed. No, they didn't fail. You didn't train them how to do that. And get them okay with the money conversation, by the way.
Yeah.
That's a big part of this. How much do you want to pay? Hey, by the way, Jerry, cost $85 here. Your visit. By the way, I heard a cost call back recently. $20 copay. Guy was like, I cannot afford that. And you have to be okay with that. And by the way, he was genuine as hell. I listened to a recorded call. I was like, holy shit. By the way, holy shit. Good thing they checked his benefits and called him back with just a $20 copay.
Yeah.
He's an older gentleman. He goes, oh, I thought I had no copay. He goes, I have absolutely no room. I have no financial room this month. I'm not going to be able to do this. And by the way, to their credit, they kept the conversation going, trying to write without telling them, oh, we can, pay $1 a day. They weren't doing that. But thank God they called that guy back. So everybody deserves, we're back to what everybody's been saying. Everybody deserves this. We owe this of what we get, right? Doesn't mean it's correct. That's not on us. We owe them the call and the conversation.
And Jerry, how do you deal with, on that same kind of aspect, how do you deal with someone who keeps coming repetitively and they're not paying maybe 2-3 times, and that third time they come into clinic and you're like, hey, we really just can't, we can't keep going. What does that look like? Is it a private conversation? Is it, hey, what is that?
So I'll say this. Fortunately, you guys have already all talked about how to manage it, how to prevent this, right? Because there's two things. How do we manage that versus how do we prevent that, Thomas? And I'd say everything, right? Lisa talking, Katie, everybody's talked about a way to prevent this. And really the key is, right, we're going to prevent, by the way, we'll prevent that ugly conversation when you haven't been paying. But isn't it funny how a $200 bill turns into a fiasco when it could have just been $20 a visit? It becomes and we had a hard stop on that, right? And the front desk knew we had a process for collecting payment. People knew in advance when they needed to pay at the end of each visit. I liked at the end. And by the way, I felt like they were delivered something. So I just felt like it was a better way to say it. And then right, they don't pay the first time. That's cool. We collect it the second time. No, they didn't pay, right? And then we had that hard stop. Here's what we didn't do, to Thomas's point. It was not up to the front desk to confront them and tell them they were owed or they couldn't come back. By the way, I've seen that put on the front desk too many times. It was a front desk job to then bring it to our ops manager, who would then immediately follow up and have exactly that conversation, Thomas. So we had a process in place. People knew in advance they owed, so that the front desk would say, welcome, Jerry. I got you clicked in, or on the way out, can I now collect your copay? No, I'm going to have to catch that next time. I don't have my wallet. No problem. And then they had a way to get that. And then after the second time, it went to our ops guy. Yeah. But it was not on the front desk team to confront Jerry at the front desk and say, you can't come back unless you pay. That's the other place we messed that up too.
And did your ops manager just come out immediately and have a conversation, or would they follow up with a call and say, hey,
No, it had to be a conversation because, by the way, I said this, we have to have a process. The process started with you understanding we had your cost, when it was due, right? All of this was going to be your cost per visit. This is when we collect it. We expect it at the time of service. That same cost conversation was on the financial policy. So I would argue, Thomas, it wasn't a hard conversation. By the way, this is how it'd go. So Thomas, by the way, the first thing my ops guy would do would check and make sure the financial policy was signed. And if it was, he had not freedom to be an asshole. He had freedom to have a fair conversation.
Yeah.
And by the way, I did collections for a while after I'd set all these processes up. I was like, why do we have people in collections? And I went back and I worked on our collection side and I did these cost callbacks. And the first thing I do, make sure the financial policy was signed. And when it did, as I'm going to tell you the same process, of the people who answered, I'm not saying 100% of the people paid me. Of the people who answered, I collected the full amount on that call. Because why? Because of our process. And all I did was refer back to the fact, oh, Thomas, I'm so sorry it got to this, and as we mentioned on your first visit in that financial policy that, by the way, you guys want to get paid back. The common enemy theme with the insurance company is the simplest, easy way to get someone paid what they're owed. Oh, and I do this. Oh, Thomas, man, that's so unfortunate. And, unfortunately, you're not the first one. And that's why on that financial policy, we put that will help you if your insurance company doesn't take care of this. And then boom, the conversation would just shift immediately. And so in that other one, it's like, hey, Thomas, right? You are aware. So we're going to have to hold any future visits till you catch up on those last 3 visits. And then once you catch up on those last 3 visits, we're more than happy to have you back on the schedule and back in the clinic. And by the way, Thomas, and again, I can say this to you, if financially we need to talk about a structure or something, let's do that now. And I don't want this, because I'd go here. I don't want any financial limitations or new problems you may be having. And I'm not implying you are, but I'm just throwing this out there to limit your ability to complete your course of care here with your expert, Dr. Jane Doe.
Yeah.
So it's the process.
Yeah.
I only have one non-BC Boys poster in my room, and it says you control the process, not the outcome.
We'll put that in every Strata PT clinic going forward.
Dude, you control the process, not the outcome.
Any other questions from Katie, Lisa, Jesse, Victoria, anybody else? Jerry, anything else you want to chime in on?
Let's hear.
Yeah.
I like, there's been great stuff, people sharing great stuff here.
Yeah, if anyone's got any specific scenarios, even outside of patient responsibility, if you're working on a challenge, marketing wise or ops wise, hiring, feel free to chime in here.
Well, if nobody has a specific
go ahead,
question
Katie.
related to this direct topic, I do have a related. So one of our biggest business challenges is that our cancellation rate is through the roof. And part of that reason is we offer multiple discipline services. Our patient population are stroke and brain injury survivors. So they are dependent not only on themselves to get here, but often on the availability of a caregiver. When they come, they might have 2 sessions scheduled. They might have 3 sessions. They might have 1. But, we have a cancellation policy. We have a cancellation fee. If you miss 1 session, it's 1 rate. If you had 2 appointments scheduled, then it's a higher rate if you cancel with less than 24 hours notice. It's so hard to follow up on it. And it's the same thing you were saying, Jerry. It's like, this is your paycheck. If we don't collect this fee, somebody's not getting paid. And as an owner, I can understand that. But then sitting in front of the person who is like, well, I didn't have transportation because my aide didn't show up from work today, is really hard to say, well, sorry, you still owe me $60 because you were supposed to be here and my therapists were ready to treat you. Any suggestions on a process for that conversation?
130%. I love this conversation. And I want to have more of these with people like you, not the people who are just scheduling musculoskeletal people who can get themselves to and from the clinic. See, I think and I can't answer it here. I can answer at high level because Katie, you guys need to sit in your business with the people you serve, meaning in mind. And by the way, maybe even bringing some of them into the conversation and going, how do we need to manage this? Right? How do we need to look at this? How do we need to serve our population in a way that's best for them and us? Because you guys, this is the funky thing, right? I don't want to worry and wait. I don't want to worry about having to take that cancel rate from someone. I want to put a process in place of, okay, why are people canceling? Not this month. I want to look overall. And by the way, I believe in a business like yours, Katie, you have to budget in a larger percentage of cancels. Number one. And then number 2 is the focus has to be on upstream. Who's calling? What's their diagnosis? Where are they, right? What is the likelihood of a successful journey with this? Not what's the likelihood. What does a successful journey look like with this client? And that may mean, right, 4 cancels during this journey. Okay, we know that. But we know that on the front end, and we're going to structure the visits and we're going to structure the process to accommodate someone that, hey, we get it. Does that answer your question? And I know that's high level, but if you want to reach out to me afterwards, and this isn't a pitch to become my paying customer, even though if you want to, I'm happy to take your money. I would love to sit down with you, even for a half an hour, and talk this out with you, because I want to be able, there is an opportunity here. There was a study a few years back at Ohio State that said why people cancel. It's the same thing. And what they wrote down was, they wrote down they wrote down who cancels, not why. And I was like, who cancels? People who live 5 miles away. I'm like, why are they canceling, right? This isn't a who thing. You don't not schedule people who live 5 miles away. You find out why the hell they can't get here, and what can we do to better facilitate that. Does that make sense to you, Katie?
Well, sure, because I think when you make your service so valuable to a person that they will move mountains to get there, then they show up.
Well, there's
And
step
so-
one, but it's not all on you, because, right, you're going to control what you can. And I wouldn't second guess the value you're delivering at all. You have a huge value, and people need to understand that on the front end. But we also need to understand the journey, I say, that people are on, right? Like people with hired aid help. What is the likelihood of us having a problem with? I'm serious. And yeah, it's a lot of work that needs to go into the front end, but then people are scheduled, because my thing is, we have to schedule, right? I love people. We don't schedule Medicaid patients because they always cancel. And I'm like, ooh, damn, you really want to go down that route? Really? I'm like, you ever ask them why? Maybe you ever, I want us to work harder on our side. And I'm not saying you're not, Katie. I'm just saying that globally. And again, I'm happy to sit down with you and look at, right, what are some, just like Lisa and their business, they got all kinds of stuff moving through the business, right? Who are our clients that we know will get here? And maybe you double book some people at times. I'm not a big fan of this, but maybe in a business like yours, you do. And I'm just throwing stuff at the wall right now just so we can hear ideas. But I believe there is a way not to get people to pay a cancel rate. It's how do we not have people in slots that they're going to need to cancel and no show from? Yeah,
Katie,
yeah, I'm done.
you go. You go, Jerry.
No, I'm done.
I thought you
I'm
were
done.
done and I mistyped you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to work with you on this, and I'm not pitching you. I'll get on the phone with you. I want to look at this with you. I want you to be successful, because I want those people you're serving to get everything they need and want too. And right, that's those clinics, by the way. You secret call them. Yeah, I need you to come 3 times a week. And I'm like, there's no way you need them to come 3 times a week. And by the way, they're going to drop off. They're going to cancel. They're going to no show, and you're going to F them because you forced and I'm not saying you're doing this. I'm just saying, I like to sit down and look at these structures and go, how do we set your clients up for success?
Kylie, go ahead.
Yeah, my question, Katie, is how long is the average plan of care for your patients? Because I've also worked in peds and neuro, and one of the problems I always had as the PTA treating is we would have people for years on services and they would never get discharged. And it was a huge problem because then people would see, oh, if I don't come this week, I'll just be here next week, or, oh, my kid, starting school. And so one of the things we tried out at one of our places is we would do shorter plan of cares, and we would do like hard intensive therapy for like 2 to 3 months. And then we would give them a break and then go back on and then take another break. And that helps with the transportation and everything. But in the peds and neuro field, no one does that. It's so hard. And it was hard as a PTA because so many times I would get paid per patient, not by hour. And so if I had a high cancellation rate, it's why I left that specific
I was
clinic.
Say that's not the way to treat.
And then they told me, hey, just make sure you're texting. And I'm like, I can only, so I understand, Katie, but the thing that helped me a lot, and the one time we were more successful, shorter plans of care with frequent ons and offs. But when you keep, a high stroke, severe stroke for 2+ years, and they're making that tiny little bit of progress, but they're not showing up 50% of the time. Yeah, I really think the frequent on-offs with plan of cares is the best way.
I think that's one of my favorite clients was a peds clinic, because, the customer is not the person calling, right? You have a patient, then you have the person calling. And then, by the way, the person calling wasn't even going to be the transport person, right? Wasn't the one responsible. And was it a family member, right? And working on arrivals there, Kylie, with that mindset. And And they did a lot of hard work, and their team was really engaged in this. And again, there is accountability. Don't get me wrong. There's accountability on our patient side, right? To get there. And so we have to be okay saying no at times. No, this isn't going to work for me.
Yeah.
And by the way, I might have another referral for you. You may need in-home. You may need something else. I have to be okay doing that too, having that tough conversation. Reach out, Thady. I'm happy to jump on a call with you and just share some of my insight on this.
We're recording this right now, everybody. So we'll have this too if anyone wants to revisit back. But any final questions for Jerry or anyone else on the team here? Again, could be about patient responsibility or just general business stuff.
Hi, I'm Victoria. I've been pretty quiet this
All
whole
good.
time.
No worries.
Just soaking things in. So I have a fairly new outpatient practice. Just hit 1 year, December 6th.
Awesome.
So I'm also a PTA. So I have hired a PT to
You're nothing but trouble. Fire them now. No, you don't need them. Fire the PT.
So one, I'm struggling with hiring. Like I can't find any PTs or PTAs actually. So that part's a struggle. And then, but my main question was on marketing. My husband is my business partner. He's a corporate guy, and I'm a caregiver, so it's kind of, we're having some struggle.
Yeah.
But the whole old school way, and I don't know if this is the old school way, but I do remember doing this for a former employer, was going out to the doctor's offices and quote unquote begging for clients, or giving breakfast, lunch, dinner, cookies, or whatever. And I started that initially, but I haven't had any success with that. So I was just wondering if there was any other ways. The only thing I've had success with are my Google reviews.
Yeah.
That's how I'm getting clients these days.
Yeah, Jerry, go ahead.
No, there's a bunch of business owners on here doing this every day. I'm not taking this one, Tom.
Yeah, Katie, Katie, do you have any advice?
Oh God, this was a topic of conversation with my husband last night.
Yeah.
Because we used to have one local hospital that would refer a lot of people to us, and then I think they discovered that we had the corner in the market on this geographic area, and they opened an outpatient clinic, and now we don't get referrals from them very often anymore. And I think there was an office hours on this topic a month or two ago.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, Victoria.
But I mean, we have the same struggle as in the neuro population. It's a little easier in musculoskeletal. You develop a relationship with an ortho doctor, and you have your shoulder person talk to the shoulder doctor, and you foster that relationship. But when you're getting neuro patients from primary care, who maybe your primary care doctor sees one neuro patient a month, it's really hard to think about investing the number of repetitions that is needed to make your face known. So I do not have a good answer for this at all. So I would love ideas.
Who is your clientele, Victoria? Victoria, who's your ideal clients?
Oh, sorry, wrong thing. So I generally have mostly Medicare pain patients, and so it would be your, I guess, typical musculoskeletal stuff. The issue around here is we have a lot of large hospitals, Emory University Hospital and Grady, all of those hospitals, and they have their own outpatient clinics. And then we also have our orthopedic doctors who also have their own clinics, physical therapy clinics that they refer to. So I did luck out with one, and it's called Resurgence, and they don't take Medicare anymore. So that was helpful for me, because they're not taking Medicare clients, so I can take Medicare clients.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, they are huge.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I like primary care. Katie, so I think Katie mentioned this, how it was bad, or I shouldn't say bad. It was a negative. I think for your population, I think going as far upstream as you can. You know, and the primary cares have a lot of people in their office that they
Mhm.
just don't know what to do with. And if you take a little bit of the education mindset around it of, hey, I can help you manage those people. By the way, you'll get a report from me. By the way, you'll always know what's going on. I think that's where we're headed as a profession anyway, is further
Okay.
upstream. So maybe you get your foot in the door. And by the way, I, even as long ago since I've been out, I went hard at primary care at the end. That I just was like, yeah, the orthodox were just, and it wasn't even as bad as it is now, but I went hard at
Yeah.
primary care and those family medicine, primary care doctors, those type of people that are seeing the masses of humanity. And you're like, hey, do you have a Medicare population with some kind of general pain problems? You think they might say yes, Victoria, right? Hey, I could
Yeah,
be your
I
solution
actually
for
did
that.
do primary care. That's who I focused on initially, rather than going to orthopedics and primary care and podiatrist. Those were my.
There you go. There
I
you
have,
go.
yeah, those are my two that I tried to hone in on.
Bring
But
the
I just,
solution
one of
with
my
you, though.
clients just walked in, so I've got to
Yeah.
All
gotta
good.
run.
Solution with
Thank
you,
you
though.
guys so much.
Thanks, Victoria.
What was,
Bring the solution with you. Hey, how can, but lead with a question. Hey, what do you need help with the most in your clinic? With the people you serve, what are you looking for next? And by the way, you can probably help them with it. So I say bring the solution, meaning bring the better question. And by the way, it took me about 15 years of marketing to go, shit, when I walk in and ask a question, this shit goes a lot faster. But it only took me 15 years. So good luck.
Well, cool.
thank you.
We'll stop it right there, everybody. This will be available. Corey will send some follow-ups, and then we'll have another office hours here pretty soon. And definitely Katie and Victoria, check out the other episodes of not only office hours, but then Strata Studios as well. There's a ton of stuff from Jerry, from us, from other folks as well. Awesome.
Jerry,
And sorry.
You're right.
Lisa,
Go ahead.
question. I'm sorry, Thomas. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're right. No worries. Go ahead.
You mentioned that you had you said a call script for when people call. Do you have an example that you'd be willing to send to me?
You want the front end or you want the cost call back? The
The
front end's a call process. You'll go,
Yeah.
this is not a script, and I'll go, absolutely not. It's a flow sheet. It's a process. So you
okay,
can have a conversation. You want that?
yeah,
Yeah. Jerry, do me a favor. Jerry at jerrydurhampt.com. Jerry,
okay, Jerry.
yeah, jerrydurhampt.com. And just say, send me that. It's on my desktop. I mean, literally, I'll get it to you before you can, faster than you can email me.
Okay, Jerry at jerrydurham.com.
PT, put PT on the end of Durham.
Sorry, thank you.
No, that's all right. Otherwise, it won't get here. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Thanks, everybody. See you guys.